Since the involvement of NASCAR superstars Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks, the notoriety of the CARS Tour and its competitors has skyrocketed. The racing speaks for itself because it's true, grassroots, hard-nosed late model racing at its best. And we're here to bring that action to light. This is On Tour. Welcome to what was the #1 rated show on this YouTube channel for the second week in a row. My name is Buddy Pulley, co-host of the Big Motor Small Blade podcast, joined, of course, by Frontstretch.com's lead CARS Tour reporter, Chase Folsom, or as we know him on this channel as Chuck. And this is On Tour, episode 4, following the CARS Tour's third race of the season at New River All-American Speedway. Chuck, how was your weekend at New River?
My weekend was great. That was officially lifetime track number 40 for me. So closing in on that 100 mark that I want to get to. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. It was a very interesting track. It was a lot bigger than I imagined it being, I guess, watching it on Flow last year. I didn't think it would. I guess compared to other 0.4 of a mile racetracks, it looks huge. I think it's just because it's so wide.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily use all of that either. They run the bottom of the racetrack on the front straightaway, which is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen it like that where they just willingly don't run out to the wall. It's just because of how wide the front stretch is. But overall, really good track.
I noticed that in a Richmond race I went to one time, I think it was the last one before they went to the next gen car, they did the same thing. It was a Richmond Cup race, and they ran like in the center of the tri-oval there. And that's what it reminded me of this weekend at New River. New River was a fun little track, man. Out in the middle of nowhere. It reminded me of going to a NASCAR race in the early 2000s. Traffic was backed up a mile down the road. I swear to God, there was 100,000 people there. All to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. for sure. Of course, this race was scheduled for March 23rd. Got pushed back to this past weekend, which is what allowed Dale Jr. to run here. Chuck, I gotta know that 40 out of 100, is that like a lifetime goal, or what is that?
So the 100 is, I want to get to 100 by the time I'm 25. So
okay,
we got time.
Wow, all right. I missed that mark by a lot.
Well, I will say on the attendance, the track estimated that there was actually 15,000, which for a track that size with the seating capacity that they normally have is insane.
Do we know what their seating capacity normally is?
Not 15,000.
It's way less than 50. They're standing room only, man. It was like your local like venue, for your local music venue. Like there was standing room only. Then there was the grandstands. It was packed.
There was rows of people standing at the fence the entire race. And I overheard that they had to shut the gates, and they told hundreds of people that they could not come in because there was no more room on the property to park cars.
Good Lord. Yeah.
And I hate it for those people that didn't get to come, but
they missed it
was packed.
They missed the heck of a race. I mean, what do we say, man? That's the Dale Jr. effect. At the end of the day, everybody, all 15, 20, 100,000 people there, they got to see Bobby McCarty get himself a win. First time since Dominion last year, correct? Yep.
It's his second win with RNS, and previously, before Dominion, he had been on over a year worth of a winless streak. So,
yeah, and
he's on a new team now.
Yeah, the story of Bobby McCarty is interesting. I mean, last year at the end of the year, he lost his sponsor, and it really, I mean, he was feeling like his career may be over, but here we are. He's a winner with RNS and here at New River.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, he is the only 3-time champion of the CARS Tour in the series history for now. He won it in 21. He won it in 21, 19, and 18, I believe.
All right.
17 was Josh Berry.
We'll get a stat guy on that. Make sure to double check that one.
But he's one of the most accomplished in the history of the series. In fact, this win last Saturday night put him in sole possession of second on the all-time win list behind Josh Berry. So with a field without Josh Berry, without Bobby McCarty in it, would feel empty. And
Yeah.
he posted over the offseason on social media, like, look, this isn't something I'd normally do, but we need sponsorship. And they found it with Black Acid Apparel, and they have been bad fast to start the year. They should have finished way better than they did at Southern National, and they got brake checked on a restart and lost the whole front end. And he ran top 10 at Hickory. Now he's got a win, and he'll be just about tied for the points lead. He came in third. Mini Tyrrell came in second. Connor Hall came in as the points leader. They finished in reverse order of that. So they'll be, all three of them will be just about dead even when they go to Orange County this weekend. And having Bobby McCarty back in a championship battle is healthy for the series because he is the most, I would say he's probably the most genuine guy on the grid. Like he is the most down-to-earth, real person you could ever talk to that drives a race car. Like how he is away from the racetrack is exactly how he is there. He's got a vlog called Beers with Bobby. Like literally doesn't matter where he finishes. They go out on the front straightaway or turn one or wherever, and they record it and they drink beer together.
It was turn one this week. I can confirm. Yeah, and you mentioned it feel empty without Bobby McCarty in the CARS Tour. And you're right. I got a nickname for Bobby McCarty, and I think it fits pretty well. So there was a radio DJ in me and Deke McCaskill's hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. His name was Marty the One Man Party. Well, Marty the One Man Party, he's long gone by now. So I think we could adopt that name and hand it over to Bobby McCarty the One Man Party. I think it fits the man pretty well.
I'd say it does. I would definitely say it does.
Yeah. Like I said, Bobby McCarty got the win at New River All-American, and here's the rest of the results from Jacksonville.
Taking a look at the results from the ZMax CARS Tour National Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram 250 at New River All-American Speedway. It was Bobby McCarty driving for R&S Race Cars that led the most laps and picked up the win on the night, followed by Mini Tyrrell leading 15 laps on the night and coming home second, and points leader Connor Hall rounding out the podium. Rookie Trayton Lapsevich would pick up his first top 5 and 4th, and reigning champion Carson Quapple rounded out the top 5. Chad McCumbee comes home in 6th, with Ryan Millington in 7th, Landon Lewis in his second start of the season in 8th, Andrew Grady in 9th, and Isabella Robusto in her first start of the season rounds out the top 10. Pole sitter Brenden Queen led 19 laps on the night, had some contact and would wind up 11th, with Cade Brown in 12th, Cody Dempster in 13th, fan favorite Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes home 14th, and Bryce Applegate comes home in 15th. Brent Cruz led 5 laps on the night and falls down to 16th in the final running order, with Buddy Isles Jr. in 17th, Jacob Hefner in 18th, Brandon Pierce in 19th, and Paul Williamson in 20th. First car lap down was Katie Hettinger in 21st, with Logan Clark in 22nd, Deke McCaskill all the way down in 23rd, Landon Huffman led 33 laps on the night but would fall back to 24th, and Ronnie Bassett Jr. fell out of the race with a mechanical issue and would wind up 25th on the night.
Now, Bobby McCarty may have led the most laps, but it looked like he was going to have to settle for third before Mini Tyrrell and Butterbean made a little bit of contact, and that allowed Bobby to pick him off one at a time and drive away with the victory. Chuck, we saw the contact there with Mini and Butterbean. It looked to me like Tyrrell just got a little over aggressive there, and if I'm him, I get it. You haven't won in a long time. It's been since 2022 that Mini Tyrrell. 2021. Okay, I mean he's a little bit more desperate than I thought, but he was working Butterbean over there for a while, and I felt like just a little bit more patience there would have paid off for him.
Yeah, I honestly think he probably had the best car.
That's what it looked like to me too.
Fastest in practice. And we're going to talk about the tire more in a little bit, but I think that this tire really, really suits him. I'm going to go fact check when the last time he won in a second here, but he has always been a guy that just wants to go hard all the time, pedal down, run as hard as you can. And with the old tire at a lot of these tracks, especially this one, you couldn't do that because you were just kind of riding until the end. And this tire has allowed guys to push harder for longer. And it's had some mixed reviews. Butterbean's not the biggest fan of it. Connor Hall's had some good and bad things to say about it. But a guy like Mini Tyrrell really benefits from it. And he was up front. He had a shot to win. And honestly, I just call it a racing deal because Butterbean got tied off the corner, kind of ran him up a little bit, shut the door on him, and then cut back down the track. Well, Minnie still had a run and was like, I'm going to send it. And he sent it off in there, and as soon as he did, got loose, got up into Butterbean. Obviously, a couple laps later, the 03 was spinning towards the outside wall with a flat left rear. I think the damage on the right front of Minnie's car probably prevented him from getting back to Bobby at the end of the race. I think it probably hurt him a little bit. He settles for second. Butterbean comes back to 11th, so still a solid result for him. But I feel like the two of them probably had better cars than Bobby, and they just kind of got their own way just by both of them really being overly aggressive, which is something we've seen from both of them in the past. Not necessarily a bad thing, but you put unstoppable force with a movable object, and this is the result. So I caught up with both of them afterwards. We're going to play those now.
I thought maybe I got into the corner a little too hard and jacked up the brakes and slid into them. But I don't know. It kind of to me looked like maybe he had come down a little bit and crowded me, and really I just kind of look at it. It might be just a racing deal. But again, I need to watch it back and understand what I've done, and if I did something wrong, like I said, I apologize to Brenden and all the lead podium guys. They worked so hard. So I never want to see that. I don't want to see someone that has a flat that was caused by me. So like I said, if it was my bad, it's my bad. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. I'll hopefully talk to Brenden, and me and him are pretty tight. So I hope that obviously nothing changes there.
I hadn't seen a replay. It's hard to say. I just racing for the lead. I don't know. I got the call late. He was inside, and whether it was racing, whether he dive bomb, whether I cut him, it was just racing for the lead late in the race. And unfortunately, cut our left rear. And thankfully, kept it pretty much out of the wall. Got the nose in the wall, but at the same time, that's racing. So a lot to be proud of. We had speed, had a shot to win, but obviously bad luck strikes again, and we just keep pounding on it, keep working at it.
You heard Butterbean mention it there, his luck, and it seems this year if Butterbean doesn't have bad luck, then he wouldn't have any luck at all. Another guy that's off to a rough start this year is Landon Huffman. Chuck, you talked to Landon. We didn't get an interview with him, but you talked with him extensively after this race. What did you and Landon talk about?
So the first thing we talked about is we were standing there at Dale's hauler, and he was taking a picture of the front of the 3 car. And he said, I'm putting this on Twitter, and I'm showing everybody Dale Jr. hit me. And then I asked him, I was like, all right, I got a question for you. What have you done to the racing gods to get this black cloud over your head? And he was like, dude, this car is evil. We'll talk more about the car in a second, but we noticed something that Landon did during the race, and Buddy had
where was Blood going? We watch him. I'm watching him drive from DFL basically all the way up to the lead, and I was like, we've seen this story before with Landon. He drives up the lead, and it didn't really pan out. He ended up getting in a little skirmish with old Dale Jr. I don't know. I think Jr. Landon's popular. I think Jr. might have him just outnumbered just a slight bit there. But he mentioned to you that he was trying to get up there and lead the halfway.
Yeah, so I asked him. I was like, so Buddy has a question for you. Where were you going? And he said, to the front. So
clearly.
Apparently, he
I saw that.
He started like back 2 rows, I believe it was. And we were like, dude, Landon's third. Why is Landon third? Where are you? But he said the car sucked. So he was like, screw it.
Real technical answer there.
He pretty much said that he was going to finish exactly where he did Saturday night either way. So he drove up to the front and led halfway and got the extra $500 bonus.
A little tire money, a little beer money for pockets and brews, huh?
Yeah. So they've had, about the car though, they've had a lot of issues with that car. For those that haven't followed the story, it's a brand new R&S race car through Jimmy Mooring Racing, who he's driving for in the Cars Tour this year, but he's working on it out of his own shop in Claremont, North Carolina. He doesn't have any full-time employees. It's just him and then a couple of his buddies that volunteer.
Might see him on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, you'll see him on his YouTube channel. And
yeah.
This car, though, is supposed to be straight from R&S. They have the connection to go back to R&S and Marcus Richmond at any time. And it was, as we know, completely wrong at Southern National. The shock mount was all messed up and threw the whole setup off, and he didn't qualify. Well, then the rear end was messed up, and they've had other problems trying to get the car to turn, and the R&S setups were not working in the car at all. So he put his own setup in it this week. Still was bad. Better, but still bad. And he's to the point where they're not bringing that car to Orange County. They're bringing his own car, the one that normally has the number 75 on it, that he ran in the Orange Crush race weeks ago. They're putting a number 37 on it, and he's going to run his own equipment until they figure out how to fix the R&S car. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's going to be a big story going into Orange County there. Now, go ahead.
It's a curious spot because I don't quite understand what is wrong with the car. Obviously, he says it's evil. He doesn't know, or else he'd fix it. That's a given. Nobody wants to run around 20th every week. And for R&S, a company that provides so many late model stock cars to so many teams, your team car just won the race. It doesn't look good for you as a company to have the most popular driver in the series, the most popular driver that runs your cars, go on his YouTube channel every week that has a lot of following and say, yeah, this R&S car is not working for us. Yeah. That looks bad. So in a way, it's almost odd that there's not being more emphasis put in to fix it, at least publicly. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but publicly there hasn't been much of anything to say, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this for Landon. We're happy that Deke and Bobby and Caden running their cars. Caden's not in a team car, but he runs their cars, are running so good, but we have this other guy here who has a big following and he's not. We got to fix it. There's nothing publicly said about it. So it's going to be interesting to keep up with that situation, see when they run the car again, for sure.
Yeah. On top of that, he wrecked Dale Jr., and he'll learn that, it might have been Junior's fault, but it's never Junior's fault. Frontstretch.com is where you'll find all your racing content in one place for free. They have it all from NASCAR to F1 to IndyCar, grassroots racing, and even iRacing. Frontstretch has you covered with daily news for every series, weekly columns, and even on-site coverage at every NASCAR and CARS Tour event. Head over to frontstretch.com, subscribe to their YouTube page, and give them a follow on X to get your daily fix on all things motorsports.
As always, we want to say thank you to frontstretch.com for even allowing me to have media credentials, allowing us to do the show, allowing us to use the interviews for this show. So if you want to see any of the full interviews from this show, any of our previous shows, or anything else from NASCAR race weekends, head over to frontstretch.com, where you can find all of your motorsports needs on one site. You can find all the interviews on frontstretch.com's YouTube channel. Buddy, there was a pretty big name that showed up to race Saturday night, but I can't remember who it was, if you could remind me.
Well, man, look. Earnhardt! Sorry to everybody, I just blew their eardrums out for that one. The North Carolina coast might be a couple miles down the road. Dale Jr. was the main attraction this weekend in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He had himself quite the night. In his return to the CARS Tour for 2024, his first time outside of North Wilkesboro running. Junior, he did the classic. He's going to wait until these guys up there run their tires off. Guys like, Landon Huffman. And he was biding his time. And then it got to the point, about 40, 50 laps to go, he was full tilt boogie going to the front. And unfortunately got caught up in the incident there with Landon. And that kind of put a damper on the rest of his night. Tough break for Dale Jr. Tough break for the crowd. I think they still had a pretty darn good time. I know I had a great time. It's always fun time here in Junior Nation roar. And it was interesting here in Landon Nation roar as well when he took the lead there. Junior also had Paul Andrews as a crew chief this weekend, which was really interesting. Paul Andrews was Alan Kalicki's crew chief when he won the championship in '92, and was also Steve Park's crew chief at DEI. So cool bit of history there. You got to talk to Dale Earnhardt Jr. I'm jealous of that. He talked to you about the new tire versus the old tire and how he fared with it.
Yeah, I actually love the tire. I mean, the ST2 is a bit more durable, and so, I love the tire conservation races, and this tire is a little tougher, so you can run it a little bit harder. I think that, if there's 30 cars out there, there's going to be about, a dozen drivers that don't really understand how to save and keep the car off the right rear. And so that works in my favor because I feel like I really know how to keep the right rear underneath the car for the whole race. And so this tire kind of works against that. So it's made it tougher for me to try to figure out how to get the car, move the car forward, because the tire's just tougher and guys are able to beat it up a little bit more in the race. And it plays into a few drivers' hands in our series. Mini Tyrrell, for example, is a guy that runs hard all the time, and this tire is really going to benefit him, and we saw that tonight. There's a few other drivers. I guess at the end, we'll see less riding, less. Yes, the pace was slow for the first 45 laps of this race, but it was probably a second faster than it was last year. So, that's the goal.
So obviously, this was Dale's first time on the new tires. He mentions there. The biggest thing that I take away from his response is his perspective on the tire as an owner versus a driver. As you heard, as a driver, he would prefer the tire to fall right off the rim. But as the owner, having the harder tire produces, in a lot of cases, better racing. The follow-up question was, how do you please the guys that aren't happy with the tire, like Butterbean, like Connor Hall? And his answer's right. He says, well, everybody's on the same stuff. They're going to have to figure it out, and they will. And obviously it's not hurting those two guys too bad, considering they were running at one point first and second. So I think he brings a lot to the table. Obviously, he brings a lot to the table knowledge-wise. But as someone who does co-own the series and also wants to race in it every once in a while, I think he's got a very unbiased opinion both ways. He's not too on the owner's side and too on the driver's side. He finds the middle ground that's best for the series. And I think him running these races actually helps him keep that middle ground where he doesn't get too much into the owner's perspective and lack the driver's perspective. Because he does hop back in the car a couple times a year, and he's like, okay, this is what I don't like about it, and this is what I want the cars to do better for the guys that race all year long. So I appreciate that part of his knowledge and his influence on the sport. I think it only makes the sport better. Yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting to hear both sides of that and how he fared with that tire, because I know that was, one of the Junior's main advantage he felt like he had was the older, softer compound and being able to go straight to the front. But it was cool to hear what it was like from an owner's perspective there. Now, mentioned before that was a quote from Matt, an interview with Matt Weaver, where he mentioned that he has a race scheduled in the CARS Tour, or maybe not in the CARS Tour, at the end of July. Well, Chuck and I have a little bet going on. So I think that Dale Jr. is going to run the Hickory Throwback. It just makes sense. Junior's a throwback driver. It seems like the type of cool I don't want to call it a publicity stunt, but there's going to be a lot of pub around that when it happens, Chuck. Chuck, you think he's going to run somewhere else?
So the reason I think this is because the exact quote was, they'll have somebody else in the car for the Wednesday CARS Tour race at Caraway. Then he said, I will be back in the car towards the end of July, and then again at Florence, Darlington weekend with the CARS Tour. There's no mention of the CARS Tour in that second race. And the weekend before the Hickory Throwback race is Hampton Heat at Langley. And he mentioned earlier in the night that he enjoyed being at New River because it was near the beach and his daughters could go hang out at the beach or at the aquarium or whatever. There's a lot for them to do.
And he gets to use his new fifth wheel he keeps talking about.
Yeah. And Hampton, Langley happens to be right near Virginia Beach. And it's a 200 lap, high tire wear, middle of the summer race. Seems to be right in his wheelhouse. So I think he's going to run Hampton Heat. Buddy thinks he's running the throwback race at Hickory.
We had to get our tinfoil hats on for this one. We have a bet on the line. It is a full on cookout tray to whoever is right. And when Dale Jr. runs the Hickory Throwback, I'll have to be sipping on a banana and mayo milkshake from Cookout. And we'll have a good time wherever Junior ends up running. Now, before we get out of here and head down the road to Orange County, it's our new segment, Chuck's Question of the Week. Chuck, I'm dreading to hear what you have for me this week.
Thanks. I appreciate it, buddy, so much.
You're welcome, man.
Thanks. The Dale Jr. CARS Tour, ZMax CARS Tour, just sold out New River All-American Speedway.
And then some.
We have to keep it on the topic of Dale Jr. So, in the 0% chance that he ever ran the full CARS Tour schedule, where would he finish in points?
Man, we're going full tinfoil hat today. Oh, man. I don't know. Well, all right. So I'm going to use his interview that he gave us to try to pinpoint down a position. I think Junior, I will put him a solid 6th. I think it takes him a minute to get in a rhythm. I think he gets off to a little bit of a rocky start, but I think by the 1/3 mark of the year, he's rocking and rolling, and he's kicking butt and taking names. I think Junior might even win him a race. I think don't ask me where. Florence. All right, Florence. I'll say Florence. I think Florence. Okay. He could get a win there. I'm gonna say 6. I think there's a couple guys that been doing this week in and week out. The Bobby McCartys, the Carsons, the Butterbeans that outpoint him. But I think he puts together consistent runs.
I'll follow that up and say 8th with a win at Florence. I think he struggles at tracks like Dominion where they're just pedal down, but wins Florence, finishes 8th.
Yeah, you're right. Those gripped up tracks are gonna be maybe his kryptonite there, but those
speed time would be key ultimately. It'd just be how much practice he got.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good one. That was a real good one.
Dial one up next week.
Yep. Here we go. A little tidbit before we go. Wayne Riggs is going to return to the 62K Chai Car this weekend at Orange County. We will be there this weekend, so if you happen to be at Orange County, shoot us a DM on Instagram at Big Motor Small Blade or Chuck and I's handles down below. Other than that, enjoy some pure sound from New River.
Celebrate the victory.